old Twitter thing. Um, what are we going to say? What are we going to say? Come watch the program. Twitter. Well, thing. I forgot to mute it. Aha! Phew. Got it quickly. Come watch the programming dev stream for TextQuest game. Which I wonder if I should have just made that a hashtag. Honestly, what's done is done. um, it's live at. Let me get the link. And do a hashtag, I suppose. Programming Thursday. We're going to try hashtag programming Thursday. Not very catchy. Okay, never mind. I'll think of a better hashtag for next week. Okay, so that tweet is out. Let's get Twitch up, make sure that everything's available. Okay, hello everyone. It is now officially 8 p.m. on October 22nd, and this is the October 22nd TextQuest dev stream. As always, Chris Ingerson here. Today, in keeping with the new theme, I am going to be doing programming. Today's specific topic is level programming, so level logic. And let's go ahead and get started, I guess. Also, side note, I say a lot as a filler for some reason. But, Okay. So, we're going to be doing the level logic for our castle that we've been working on for a while. It is got a couple of, well, it's actually got a pretty good variety of things that need to happen. So we'll be able to see a bunch of stuff from triggers to states of things. And I was trying to get a nice variable system set up before the stream, but I didn't really get it done. So we're going to sort of lightly touch on a few things. Probably won't go too in depth. But main thing is we're going to just be figuring out, what happens when, I guess I'll play to show it off. So certain things need to happen at certain points or need to react to what the player has done. So once it plays, eventually, there we go. I'll sort of figure out that UI bug. So there's stuff like, what happens when the player gets in here for the first time, what happens when the player opens these doors, what happens, see, no, that's just my head bobbing. What happens when the player gets up to here, because we'll have a trigger, trigger a cutscene. Well, not a cutscene, more like an event that happens and you can watch it. I don't know if that's the light from the king or if that's just the optical illusion. Anyway, to all the fun stuff like simply having. That was interesting. It didn't spit anything out, which is great. To all these messy light maps because the UVs in this room are all messed up. So there's a lot of variables that need to be kept track of. They're not terrible to keep track of. It's just they do need to actually have something that keeps track of them. So that's what we're going to take a look at today. So we can stop playing. And first things first, I will show you the... So each level in TextQuest has a level manager, or it has a script that derives from level manager. And that basically sets, if I select it, stuff like the color of the sky. So if I actually play, you'll be able to see that the main, actually it should show up in the main camera. I think it does. It might have some bugs. Basically, it sets the color of the skybox whenever I'm looking at it. I think this is, yeah, okay, so this isn't the default skybox, so yeah. It sets the color of the sky. I do that so I can set the tone in different areas. It sets different stuff like variables. So this is, so I can spawn specific items given a specific difficulty. So if I want to play this on Sierra mode as opposed to normal mode, then I can spawn different items based on the actual difficulty level. So for example, by default I have a note show up, and that shows up whether or not you're can't talk tonight. That shows up if you're in normal mode or if you're in hard mode. But I also have a wax key that's set to show up only if you're in hard mode, not if you're in normal mode. And that's because sometimes different difficulties have different puzzles. So I need to have something that's dynamically capable of realizing what the difficulty is. And of course, that also goes with stuff like, this is probably something we're going to redo. So I have difficulty toggles is what they're called. And essentially that just has... It was a quick attempt to not have to duplicate levels, basically, because I have, for example, in normal mode, this painting, which actually doesn't exist anymore, I guess, because it's turned off since we're in the middle of the level refactor. There's a painting in normal mode that is just a painting, and then in hard mode, it actually has a key inside of it. So there's different things that need to happen given on the modes. So I need to come up with a better way to do that. And we might try to do that tonight. I don't know. Maybe. And then, of course, everything after that is basically level specific. So we have stuff like curtains, because the curtains have a... Oh, they might actually be hidden. Or they're open right now. They're not closed. I don't know. So the curtains might have... well, that's a puzzle, I guess. It's kind of awkward to explain. Basically, each one of these things is a specific thing that you want to happen in that level. So in this case, I have secret curtains, and all that is just saying whenever these curtains do something, because there's a lever behind them, then send an event. We're going to log all of that and set the level up to behave appropriately. Same with the bed. The bed raises and lowers and all that stuff. Although I guess that this level is destroyed thoroughly enough that there is no bed still. We're working on it, one step at a time. So it's going to be a pretty interesting day, considering half of the stuff is kind of gone or getting rebuilt. So the first thing we're going to focus on actually is going to be how much do I want to tie this to the central logic? I guess the easiest thing to do is we're going to set up a musical trigger, or a music trigger. So something that I enjoy to do for my levels is I'll have certain areas that when you enter them will trigger a short music sequence. So we'll have triggers, and this will be one of them, where when you first enter the... I think I might actually have a music trigger. No, I don't. Trigger. Oh, is it just called Discovery Trigger? Oh, right. It needs a stupid box collider. Discovery Trigger. I did, okay. Probably going to have to decouple this, because it's kind of nasty right now. So basically what this trigger can do... If I move it up... Oh. Whoops. Hold on. I did this wrong. Let's move this under here. Enter throne room. I don't know why I keep calling throne room Thrawn room. Call this triggers. Alright. So now, I go look at this. Don't know why my box colliders are all different colors. Some of them are blue, some of them are black, some of them are multi-hued. I feel like there's something wrong with my my Unity outline or wireframe stuff. Don't know why. So let's move this over here. Oop, too far. It's really hard to tell. Jeez. Okay. Yeah, it's hard. It's like it changes color based on how close to 0 it is. Okay, I'm going to have to look into that. I feel like my Unity has got some slight problems with it for some reason. In any case, so we're going to set its size to be X. Not XXX, just X actually doesn't need to move because it's already fine. So we're going to make this, I don't know, 10Y. super hard to tell, but that looks pretty close to what we want, actually. Okay, so that's that. It's good enough. We only have to approximate with this, basically. And then 8. Nope. Let's go to 12. Move this to over 1. Okay, that's pretty good. So what's going to happen is essentially, once a player walks through this box collider, it will trigger a piece of music to play. So for now, I'm just going to sort of test it out with a... Find one of my songs that I already have. I think this is the... Yeah, we'll do that. This was an old sound effect. I don't use it anymore. It was originally made for one of the first sort of level-based puzzles that I ever did, where if you got lost, it would play this horn sound effect. So let's just say... Free play. I don't remember what the freak I called free play for. That is not very descriptive. Nothing is needed to set can play to true. What the heck? I don't even remember adding that. Ha! So, yeah, this whole system's probably going to need to be rewritten. This is one of the earliest things I wrote. So this was written probably about 1.5 years ago when I was still pretty terrible at programming. Super weird. Let me see if I even use this anywhere, because I don't remember. Where's find all references? There it is. Right here. Huh. I guess free play is always weird. Okay. Oh, I know why. Okay. So I'm guessing I did that to have, if you had any prerequisites in the scene, or for the actual clip to play, because I have some parts where music will be able to play, but only after you've like collected a specific piece of equipment. But there was no reason to try and spawn the trigger in until you got that, so let's see if this works. Oh dear. Oh, what was that? Control-Shift-P. Something just happened and it was wrong. Whew. We got an error. That's okay. That's interesting. So let me turn off free play. Stack Overflow exception. I was gonna say, like, that stutter was not a good thing. Interesting. So we might just we might just rewrite the trigger program honestly tonight, because it's pretty bad. It should not be this hard to remember how to do it. So, okay. So yay! We're gonna redo this. Super fun. So let's go ahead and do... You know what, actually, I started to do that anyway. So I have a script I started to work on called Event Trigger. Let me close it and then open it again. It's going to be part of the Hoosier Games thing. So, and if you haven't seen me work on this before, the HoosierGames.common thing is sort of a collection of classes that I'm putting together that I think will help game development become a little simpler for people in the Hoosier Games student development group, which is the student development group for Indiana University. And I thought it would just be nice to have this sort of nice bulk of scripts that they can look to and have stuff already done for them. Not entire games, but just nice conveniences, like converting strings into floats or to bools or all other sorts of things that you can think of. So in this case, I'm going to make a trigger that... It's just going to be a script that has triggers attached to it, or a trigger attached to it, and it will send an event saying that, hey, I've been hit. So we're going to call it, say, private void on trigger enter, collider call, private void on trigger enter, collider collider call private void on, oh, I was doing this wrong. Collider call. This should actually be on trigger exit. Alright, so these are the three trigger functions inside of Unity, which means that if so here we have a box collider that is a trigger. If this is trigger is checked, then anytime anything with a collider and a rigid body, I believe, enters that trigger, it will call one of these events. So if you're entering the trigger, it will call on trigger enter. If you're leaving the trigger, which means you're coming from inside of its bounds out, you will call on trigger exit. And if you are inside of the collider, as long as you're there, it will call on trigger stay. So we're going to want to, let's go ahead and say public delegate void collider delegate and basically this is going to, whenever this happens, these are going to send an event that tells you what the it's an event that carries whatever the collider that it collided with is. So we'll say public event collider delegate on that's okay. So trigger entered collider. Oh, sorry, I did that wrong. Equals delegate. There we go. We'll copy this, paste it, and we'll say trigger exited. And we might just call it trigger enter, trigger exit, and trigger stay. Okay. We'll go ahead and do public delegate void triggered delegate. And that's not going to pass anything. I'm going to call these info. I've done a similar thing to a event button class that I created that basically extends the functionality of the base UGUI button class. So UGUI's onClick, and well, that's really the only thing that buttons have. UGUI's onClick doesn't actually pass which button was clicked, so I wanted to be able to offer the option of getting that button, so you can actually call event button.onClickInfo, which passes the button that was clicked. There's still onClick, and there's also stuff like onHover exit, and all that stuff, and those don't have to pass anything, but I wanted to have the option to pass that information. So I'll copy this, move this here, copy this, paste, 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 get rid of this, and get rid of this. So now we have those three things. So we have 6 delegates overall. And that's just so that something else can be listening to these triggers to make it a little bit easier for us. So the other thing that we can do is, let's go ahead and do public string, I don't know what that was, an array of strings called tag masks, I suppose. Let's see, here we go. And these will basically be the tags, if you want to specify specific tags to look for. So we'll say on trigger enter call, so if tag masks dot length greater than 0, else, alright, then if call dot tag, no, actually, we'll try tag masks dot, if it contains, might make that a list then. Do I really not have a, I thought I had a, extension that I had written that would do that, but I guess I don't. Go figure. Okay, fine. So we'll just do dot generic. Make this a list of strings. New list, not list m, string. Alright. Dot count. If tagmasks dot contains col dot tag, then we will do our events. So we'll do trigger enter, trigger enter info call. Copy this, paste it, and we'll just copy this whole thing, paste, and paste. So all that's left is now to say exit, exit, copy this, move it down here. I almost feel like it would be easier to okay. Well, actually, why don't I just do this? So those are the private ones. Let's do protected virtual void on crap. Can't call it on trigger enter. I guess it could. It's probably not clean though. Yeah, okay. That's fine. I'll just copy this. Oh, right. Can't do that. That'd be declaring it twice. Trigger entered. I guess I'll just do that. I might still call it on, because I kind of like that. We'll copy this. Go down. On trigger exited. Down and on trigger stayed. Trigger exit. Trigger stay. Stay. Okay, cool. So now I can actually get rid of this and say on trigger entered. Call. That gets rid of this stuff. Oh, crap. That turns this stuff into one line, which is nice, and I can override that function or those functions later. On trigger exited. Call. Copy this. Move it down. Trigger stayed, call, and bam! Nice! So that means that I can just override these specific functions in classes that derive from event trigger to have them do things. And I can also have other things listen for triggers, which has always been one of my criticisms of triggers, is that you can't have things that aren't attached to the trigger listen for them. But, I guess that's just how it goes. Okay, so now we have a base class for all of our triggers, basically. So we go back, let that compile, make sure I didn't make any stupid errors. Which, of course, I probably did. And, of course, there are warnings from asset store things, which always makes me sad. Because I can't change those. They're not my code. Although I could probably add ignores to them. So, anyway. So, yep, that compiled. No problems. Great. So, now, let's go ahead and make... Let's call it a... What kind of trigger? It's going to be a trigger. Um, we could call it a music trigger. But actually, the question I should probably be asking is, do I want to have a specific... Do I want to have triggers handle the music, or should I have... Um, should I just have the level manager listen for that event that gets fired? Because if I do it that way, it might be better, I suppose. But then that would be bogging down the... I'm not gonna worry. I'm not gonna do that because I don't want to bog down the level manager with a ton of crap. It should basically just have references to things that need to happen in weird, indirect ways. So do music trigger, but before I do that, I do actually need to make um, a I'll call it text quest trigger. And this will be the trigger that derives from the Hoosier game. Reload that. So this is going to be namespace text quest. Get rid of this. Indent. I hit caps. Indent that. Get rid of this stuff. Oh, nice. It actually spaced everything for me. Okay. We're going to have using HoosierGames.common. It's going to get derived from event trigger. Cool. So, protected. Actually, before we do that, let's think of the variables. So the variables this is going to need are public string data ID. What's that? And this is something I'm considering changing, actually, because there's actually a very cool way to do enums based on strings, basically, that I learned at my work, basically, the place that I actually work at, from the lead programmer. It's a really, really cool system. I might try to implement that here because it basically lets me type out a bunch of strings in, say, a CSV on Google Drive, then export that, bring it into here, and I can just parse out that stuff automatically. And then I can just have an enum dropdown, basically, in the editor that I can easily swap this stuff in. I don't have to type in the strings manually. And that means that there'll be less likely of a chance for me messing up typing the ID. So for now, we're just going to do string-based, which is fine. Not going to worry about it too much. So then we'll have protected bool triggered equals false. And this is because I don't want to have, let's say you walk into a trigger, I don't want you to be able to walk back out and then trigger it again. So, what else do I want to do? I guess above here, we could have public enum trigger type. I think I started to do this in the other one. So this will be enter equals 10, exit equals 20, and then stay equals 30. I could actually do byte if I wanted to help reduce memory. Not going to do much though. By default, enums in Unity, I think, are int32. Yeah, they're int32. And I don't know if you can actually change them to int30 or int64, which makes me super sad. Because there's some problems with bit overloading that I was running into where there's only so many bits that I could overload. But this is fine because byte goes up to 255, I think. So 10, 20, 30 should be fine because I only need the 3 types of triggers. And then we will have public trigger type. Type equals trigger type dot, we'll say enter by default. Okay, so now here's the super fun part. So And we won't worry about data for now. We'll just see if it can trigger properly. So we'll do protected bool is triggered get return. I guess I don't really need that. That's kind of just pointless code. But I like having get set statements. So is triggered. Okay. Then right. So protected override on trigger entered. We'll just say if not triggered, then we can do this. We'll do base.onTriggered as well. Really, though, it's actually not helping me any. So if I want to override this if not triggered will always have to be rewritten anyway. That kind of makes me sad. This is something I've sort of run into before. I'm not discovery trigger. That's just nasty. Don't want to look at that. So I might need to add another function that's basically a empty function that gets overridden as needed. So we would have so you basically have protected virtual void. Can't call it trigger enter. Running out of ways to type this. On trigger entered, trigger entered. Yeah, I guess we could just do that. Trigger entered. And that does nothing. And we would do the same for the other two. Trigger exit. Not exerted. Exited and trigger stayed. So these are basically just empty functions. And then when needed, they can be overridden. So, right. So I'm going to, I guess, yeah, it's fine. Say trigger entered. Exited. And then trigger stayed. There we go. Cool. So Thursday nights. Seems like a pretty dead night. Could just be, again, that, I don't know. Still trying to figure out good streaming schedules for this sort of thing. I don't know if I want to call them there, honestly. Kinda don't. Because I feel like if I call them here, there's no real separation between the events getting triggered and... but I probably should. That's fine. That's fine. Actually, yeah, that's exactly what I want, basically. So, protected, override, then on trigger, exited, if not triggered. Do that. Then protected, override, on trigger stayed, if, and bam. Great. So now all I have to override whenever I make anything that derives from these is basically just that base trigger entered, trigger exited, and trigger stayed functions, which makes it really, really easy. And then I can go ahead and say and trigger, no, type equals trigger type dot enter. Copy this, move it down. say exit. Cool. Do I want to make that a bit? Let's not go crazy. I gotta stop thinking way ahead whenever I program. I mean, well, that's not the correct way to say that. I need to stop doing really advanced things all at once whenever I try to do this. So that was the base text quest editor. So now I want to do the music trigger. And all this is going to do is just say namespace, text quest, enter. Get rid of these because I don't need them. Get rid of this. Go up here. And then, not event trigger, what was it? Text quest trigger. Cool. Protected, override, and then on trigger entered, protected, override, on, trigger exited, and then protected, override, trigger stayed. Public audio clip. Music clip. And I think we could just do, don't need to do the base of anything here, but we do want to say if type equals trigger type dot enter, copy this, move this, get rid of this, because there's no point to call the base function since the base function does nothing. This is going to be fun. I really don't know if I should even allow you to have stay in this, because there will never be a point where you will trigger music as you stay inside of a collider. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that, because that would be dumb. You'd just be stacking music, basically, and it would sound terrible. So here we could just do text quest music manager dot play. Oh, that's a good question. Do I want to play or play over fade? We'll just play for now. The difference between play and play over fade is play plays a song. It just plays a song and stops any other music that's playing. But play over fade actually fades out other stuff like ambience, but doesn't get rid of it. Doesn't turn it off all the way. And that's important because if you're outside, I still want to have birds chirping, just very quiet. So play, and then I can say music clip. I think I can specify. Of course, I stuck it at the end. Why wouldn't I? Public mix. Oh, actually, you know what? I think I would also have to do using. So I'm not using. That's a Unity Engine .audio. So public audio mix or group. Music group. That way, I'm trying to implement Unity's new audio mixer stuff that they added in 5. I haven't really worked with it before, so I'm trying to get the hang of it. God, why did I do that? Stuck the group at the very end, like an idiot. Ugh. 0F, 0F, or actually 2F, 1F, and music group. I might go back and change that because that's pretty horrendous. And then I also want to make sure that I go back to text quest trigger and set triggered to be true. I'm going to get rid of is triggered because that's not going to be used. So let's put this in front of everything. Cool. So now if we go back, we can have this. I do think I called it discovery trigger because I wanted it to happen whenever you discovered something, which was kind of dumb. I should have just called it music trigger. We don't have to worry about the data component right now. Let's move it up. So let's go ahead and say player, because we only want it to happen whenever the player happens. Type will be whenever you enter it, and the music clip will be that horn fill, which is very appropriate now. The audio mixer group will be through music. So I think I have, yeah. So I'm going to actually do this and move this up here so you can see the sound effect in play. I'm going to not maximize it on play. So we'll be confined to a slightly smaller space, but you'll be able to see the... So you can actually see the audio mixers at the top there reacting, because I have sound effects getting piped through that SFX stuff. So let's see. Okay. I forgot that I told it to loop. Ah, man, that means I need to add an option to not loop. Ah! A lot of crap that I have to do, because I just didn't think about it when I was coding that. What is this? Okay, it was just a test. Oh, right, because that's from... Okay. So, yeah, that's pretty nice. We got it at least playing the audio whenever we pass through there. Oh, and I should also... So let me save this. Let me turn off stats, because that's kind of obnoxious. So we're going to... Actually, you know what? Great. I'm actually curious. What was I doing before with discovery trigger? Play trigger, play trigger, play trigger. Play over fade. Okay. Let me see if I can change this real quick. Go to definition. Probably not. I'm willing to bet that I just... Good God. Yeah, that's... Oof. Isn't that fun? Continuous play. Oh, man. Yeah, I forgot how massive I made this class to try and handle. It's not really doing anything advanced, it's just taking care of a lot of stuff, so you don't have to do much whenever you want it to do something. So it's a lot of duplicate functions like this. Since I can't, if I compile this into a DLL, I can't have overloaded functions, which is really, really dumb. But that's how it works in Unity. So, ha ha ha. Interesting, interesting, interesting. So I just didn't even think about. It had been so long since I've done music that I just completely forgot that I needed it to not loop music normally. Great. Great. That is just beautiful. So we could try this as a sort of quick solution to see. Text quest music manager dot stop, and I can give it a delay of music clip dot length minus 2f. Fade duration is 2f. So let's see how that works. That should at least, play it once, basically. And then we'll be able to go back through and make sure that it's not triggering again. So let that go through here. So that'll be something fun for me to do tomorrow, probably, getting that audio stuff to work properly. Is it looping? Nice. Hooray! So it only played the once, and now if I go back in, cool! Doesn't play again, because it's already been triggered. So, that is how music triggers work. All that setup for something that should have really been a few minutes. Um, that is what happens when you don't work on a system, or you work on a system way back when you are not good at programming. So, we're going to go ahead and just add a to-do here. Move music group to second arg, and to-do add play once option. Hooray! So I'll do that either tonight after the stream ends or sometime tomorrow. Okay, so what next? We have our oh, and I almost forgot. I guess I'll go ahead and do that. Just copy it over. So that way at least I know that it'll work if I wanted to have it happen whenever I leave the collider. It's far less common for me to have a on-trigger exit music trigger, but it does happen. One instance is at the second part of the game after you've left the castle area. There's a cabin, and once you get a specific item inside the cabin and leave, as you're leaving, it will play a song. But it doesn't happen. It happens as you're exiting the cabin, so when you're walking away from it, not when you're walking towards it. So I had to make it whenever you leave the trigger, not whenever you enter it. So right now, we have this will trigger only once. However, it will be able to trigger again if I come back. If I say like leave this area and then come back, because the trigger gets set to be. Well, if I debug. It's a protected variable, which means that whenever you, actually if it was public, anytime you have a local variable like this, whenever you reload the area, it gets set to its default. And by default, this is set to be false. So what I actually need to do is I need to hook this up so that it will check on awake, or at some point, it will check that its data ID has not been set to be true. I don't think I'm going to do that tonight though, because like I said, I want to rework my data, the way I do data IDs. So I'd rather not sit here and do a lot of strings when I'm just going to come back later and get rid of them. So for now, I think we're going to leave the horn fill. We're going to change that actually to what's a good one? I think Plains 3. I don't know. I have 5 songs that I've had for 2 years because I am not a musician, and this was written by the oh, not that. Yes, this is the one. That's what I was hoping it was. And these songs were written by these 5 songs, plus a couple of others, were written by the initial composer that I had for Text Quest, but he was only on for 1 semester before he left. So I've sort of stretched these as far as I can go. And I'm getting really close to the point where I can't do much else without having more music. So, for the time being, I'm just going to use these things. Okay, so what else can we do tonight? It might be a fairly short night because there's a pretty large amount of rewrites I think I'm going to have to end up doing, just because the systems for this are really, really old. But we can at least get another trigger happening. So let's go ahead and have triggers, enter throne room. Let's go ahead and subclass this to be music. Move enter throne room to be there. I guess, events. And then we'll have another one. Box collider and then an event collider. No. Text quest trigger. There we go. Move that up. I like to have my components up at the top and Unity's built-in components below them. Make this a trigger. Let's drag this. I'm just going to test something. So it's black right now. And then it randomly turns to blue. Look at that. It's got like a weird fading. Ugh! I want to figure out why it's doing that. Don't know why. I feel like it's some weird graphical glitch that Unity's just doing for some reason. It's based on the position of the actual thing. Well, anyway. So let's move it here. I wouldn't be too mad, except it makes it really hard to see. Wonder if it's... No. I don't know, I thought maybe I was just doing wireframe mode or something. But I don't think I am. So... Hooray! Just makes it super annoying. Or maybe my gizmos are... Nope. Okay, so I'm just gonna... I don't know. Huh. I don't know. Well, anyway. So let's go ahead and let's stretch this to be 10. Oh, definitely not. Way longer. 15. That's better. Move it back a little bit. Move it back one more. I don't know why I get so precise with these, but 4.5. Oh, really? 5. 5.5? Yes, 5.5. Actually, no. Let's go to 4 or 5 and set our width to be 16. Perfect. That means that our Z should be 15 as well, I think. And our Y should be, I don't know, 5. It's kind of probably fine. It's rendering in a way that's very difficult to tell. Makes it very hard to see, but that looks fine. I basically want it to happen whenever you get close to the... Oh, I was scaling. I hate it when I do that. 15. 16. And this will be 5. I don't like to scale things unless I have to. I prefer to actually adjust the bounds for stuff like gliders. I'll go ahead and make this 5.5. Nope, 6. Cool. So, yep, it's basically bounding the entire base there. And what this is going to do is, whenever it is entered, it is going to allow you to... well, it'll trigger basically a scene in which this wizard shows up and then turns the king to stone, then tells you you have to follow him, because he's the bad guy. Why can't I spell throne today? I've called it Tron, Thron, Tyron right there. Anyway. Okay, so that's there. And actually that means that way back here at our level logic that we talked about way back at the beginning. Close this, close this, close this. We can have public... actually, do I? I don't. I guess I don't need. Public text quest trigger throne trigger. Alright, so private void on throne triggered. Down here in awake. See, and this is this is one of those things where I have data IDs that are associated with this. I'll put the variable in there, but I'm not going to really mess with it much because I really want to get a better way of doing that. Can't type string either. So this is the data ID. If it's set to false and the trigger is triggered, then it will trigger that cutscene. Or I guess it's not a cutscene. I don't know what to call it. It's basically something similar to whatever Half-Life does, where it's not really a cutscene because it's not pre-rendered and it's not taking control away from the player. You'll be able to move around still, but it's something going on in the scene, I guess. So on throne triggered, we'll keep that there as for now. And I'm not going to worry about this for now. And instead, I'm just going to say throne trigger dot on. Oh, I didn't call it on trigger. I just called it trigger enter. Right? Yep. Plus equal on throne triggered. Cool. And for now, just to get this sort of quick and dirty, I think we're going to just have a public game object wizard dot set active true. So this way we can just have a nice, have the wizard pop up there. Or that compile. And once this works, once I get this working, I think we might call it a night, because it's a pretty slow night, considering a lot of crap that I have to, not crap, but a lot of stuff that I should have done ahead of time. I didn't think about how old some of these systems were, and how much I would hate looking at them now. So, put them under props. I don't even know where I put the wizard. If I could click on him. And not his beard. So, let's get this. Put the wizard here. And then we will turn him off by default. And then we'll also have a reference to the text request trigger there. Okay. So now, that all should be set up. Don't need to worry about that. Once it plays, it should... It's a little loud, but there's our music. And then... BAM! There's our wizard. Cool. Cool. So, yeah. got a nice start on the logic. And there's just a lot of systems that I want to rewrite before I take this too much farther. Because there's a lot of way more convenient and better ways to do this. And the reason I did it before is the reason I did it that way before is because I didn't know any better, since I was still a terrible, terrible programmer, and now I'm only a slightly less terrible programmer. But I mean, we got to talk about a wide variety of things. We talked about how triggers work, and we talked about how sort of the basic logic behind levels is set up, although it's probably more confusing than helpful. Still, though, it's good to talk through, considering that there are a lot of points that I sort of didn't realize I had made so convoluted. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good place to start, or to stop for tonight. Tomorrow is going to be a sort of catch all day, sort of doing whatever I feel like. We'll probably, if I can get the variable stuff rewritten tonight, rewritten, we might look at that. Otherwise, we'll probably mess around with more light probes. Or actually, I don't think I did that last time. So I started messing around with light probes last night, so Wednesday on the day off of the stream. and it like sort of works. It's not very good. Light probes are essentially a way to try and cast static lighting onto non-static objects, but it just doesn't work very well. It's hardly noticeable. So unless I can find a better way to do that, that door is just going to bug the crap out of me. Although I did actually retexture the door, so it's textured a little bit better. It's hard to see because it's in the dark so much. Although I could probably actually play and show you that real quick. Although I will, hold on, Control Shift P. I will turn off my music trigger. And then, okay. So you can sort of see the wood grain here and the scratches, but it just looks so off compared to what it would look like if it actually had baked lighting done to it. But yeah, I did retexture or re-UV it so that its texture is actually in the right spot at least. But yeah, there's definitely problems with it. So even though you can probably slightly see it, although maybe my audio or my visual streaming isn't quite good enough to showcase it. Because it looks like I'm getting some terrible artifacting on my video on the stream. But yeah, that's just something I'm experimenting with, light probes. It's kind of annoying to work with, but I don't know if I have any other option, honestly. So yeah, that's something that we might look into. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good place to stop for the stream. Thank you very much for watching the first programming-focused, like specifically topic-focused TextQuest dev stream, because obviously I've done programming central stuff before, but yeah, I think we're off to a pretty good start with the new streaming schedule. Hopefully streaming this 4 times a week will generate a little more interest in it from people. Mostly because I like to have some people stop by the stream to talk to. You know, it kind of gets old talking to yourself. But, you know. Either way, I gotta sort of just keep going forward. So, thank you very much.